Pante Kera tragedy. 24 Februrary 2003. Indonesia army brutality. The Pante Kera tragedy, which occurred in 2003 in East Aceh Regency, Simpang Journey Subdistrict, stands as one of the deepest wounds in the long history of Aceh suffering under Indonesian military occupation. In the small village of Pante Kera, dozens of civilians, including children, were brutally massacred by Indonesian army, TNI troops and intelligence agents who accused them of being sympathizers of the Free Aceh movement, GAM. According to surviving witnesses, the military operation took place at dusk, after helicopters and military trucks surrounded the village. That evening, the air was thick with the smell of smoke and burnt earth. The call to Maghrib prayer was suddenly cut short by gunfire, and children's screams echoed amid the flames, blending into a sorrowful symphony impossible to forget. On 24 February 2003, the villagers who had just finished their prayers were startled by bursts of gunfire and shouting. Houses were burned, women were separated from their children, and many were tortured in front of their families. Field reports compiled by Kontras Aceh and the National Human Rights Commission of Indonesia, Komnas HAM, documented at least 36 deaths, including 12 children and 8 women. Most of the bodies were thrown into the Krueng Kureoto River, while others were buried in a mass grave near a palm oil plantation, now controlled by a military-linked company. The perpetrators identified in investigative reports included members of Kopassus, SGI, and Brimob, under the command of Laoner Coleras Dedi Santoso and Maj Andri Wahyudi. According to AJAR, Asia Justice and Rights, and internal documents from Amnesty International, 2004, units stationed at ExxonMobil Cluster 2 post in Loxicon were also involved in the security network that protected the oil company's operations. Based on survivor accounts and field documentation, several children were raped before being killed. They were Nurul Aini, 10 years old, raped by 3 soldiers under Lieutenant Colonel Dedi Santoso's command before being killed near the river. Faisal, 12 years old, tortured and forced to watch his mother being raped, then killed by an SGI member known to villagers as Sergeant Budi. Rahmatullah, 13 years old, dragged from his home and tortured by Brigadier Hendra at a military post until he died. Jamila, 9 years old, raped and killed by 2 Brimob officers known as Yudi and Tono. Kutzara, 11 years old, gang raped at a checkpoint and murdered by Sergeant Wahyudi. Safrina, 10 years old, raped and burned alive by soldiers under Maj Andri Wahyudi's command. Mursid, 12 years old, beaten to death after trying to protect his younger sister from being raped. Farida, 13 years old, raped by several soldiers and later found dead in a palm oil field, now owned by PT Kurutoe Agro Lestari. The perpetrators named in villagers' testimonies and local investigations came from joint units of Kopassus, SGI, and Brimob, operating under Lieutenant Colonel Dedi Santoso, Major Andri Wahyudi, and others who have since retired and live in wealth through companies built on confiscated Achenese land, including PT Kuruto Agro Lestari, managed by Kolamir's Rete Surya Dharma. Eyewitnesses such as Kut Rama, a mother who lost 2 children, recounted in a trembling voice, "They took my son, 9 years old, and beat him with a rifle butt. I heard him cry out, 'Umi!' Then silence. I never saw him again." Another witness, Tunku Ibrahim, the village imam, testified that days before the attack, a helicopter landed near the forest carrying men in civilian clothes who turned out to be intelligence officers. They recorded the names of villagers, especially young men. 2 days later, the village was annihilated. Today, the site of the village has been transformed into a palm oil concession owned by PT Kuruto Agro Lestari, a company affiliated with former military officers and controlled by Kolom, Ret Parent Surya Dharma. According to Human Rights Watch 2005, around 240 hectares of community land were seized without compensation and transferred through a scheme called Strategic National Asset Security. This tragedy was not only a massacre, but also an attempt to erase collective memory. The village school was flattened, the prayer hall burned, and the mass grave marker built by villagers in 2017 is now covered with weeds. The white stone once bore the names of the missing children, including Nurul Aini, 10, Faisal, 12, Rahmatullah, 13, and Jamila, 9, children who never returned home. Reports by Komnas HaM, 2006, and the International Center for Transitional Justice, ICTJ, 2008, found strong evidence that the military operation in Pante Kera was part of a broader clean sweep strategy implemented across North Aceh, with logistical support from foreign energy companies. Amnesty International investigations confirmed that the killings and torture in Aceh during 2003 constituted crimes against humanity under Article 7 of the Rome Statute. According to Human Rights Watch 2005 and AJAR 2015, the pattern of sexual violence against women and children during the military emergency reflected a structured system of impunity. Perpetrators were never prosecuted, while victims were left without redress. To this day, no officer or commander has been held accountable for these atrocities. Those responsible live in peace, some even promoted to senior government or corporate positions, while mothers who lost their children still wait by the riverbank, clutching faded photographs and unanswered prayers. Every morning, these mothers return to the river, sitting silently as they gaze at the flowing water, hoping to glimpse the reflection of their lost children. Their soft cries mingle with the wind and the prayers they whisper endlessly for justice that never comes. They live with wounds that never heal. Photos of their children hang on the cracked walls of their homes. By the river where children once played, wild grass now covers the mass graves. The world remains silent, but Aceh's wounds still speak. Imagine a mother enduring the same horror, watching her child raped and killed before her eyes, her home burned, her land taken, despite her innocence. Now those perpetrators walk freely in front of her every day, neatly dressed and wealthy, as if there were never blood and tears on this soil. This is not just anger. It is the collective cry of Aceh's heart demanding true justice. The Pante Kera tragedy is not merely about death. Amid the silence of nature, the lost children's cries still echo. The wind carries their voices, the small screams buried with dust and blood. The night silence merges with the prayers of broken-hearted mothers, waiting for answers in a land that holds nothing but wounds. It is about the theft of the future, about children silenced before they could dream. The world may remain silent, but Aceh will never forget. Justice has not come, and silence only deepens the wound. International references: Amnesty International, 2004. Indonesia, Power and Impunity, Human Rights Under Martial Law in Aceh, 2 Human Rights Watch, 2005. Aceh at War, Torture, Disappearances and Extrajudicial Killings, 3 Asia Justice and Rights, AJAR, 2015. Memory, Truth and Justice in Aceh, 4 Contras, 2003. Dossier of Human Rights Violations in Aceh, 4 National Human Rights Commission of Indonesia, Komnas HaM, 2006. Report on Gross Human Rights Violations in Aceh, 5 International Center for Transitional Justice, ICTJ, 2008. Indonesia, Addressing Past Abuses in Aceh,